All right, today we're taking an absolute sledgehammer to standard hustle culture. You know the drill, right? Wake up at 4 a.m., grind 24/7, post all your wins online, and success is just going to magically follow. But what if the very foundation of that advice is actually designed to keep you exactly where you are? What if the real rules of success have been hidden from you on purpose? Well, today, we are unpacking some incredibly guarded, historical secrets about how true wealth is actually built, and more importantly, how it's protected.
So what is the world's biggest lie? We're told from day one that rich people get wealthy purely through hard work. But the truth, the truly wealthy never ever reveal how they actually got rich. They'll gladly hand you a motivational speech, maybe outline their super positive morning routine, but they completely hide the real mechanics of their wealth. And why? Because if you knew the actual secret, well, you could become just like them.
Flashback about 500 years. A guy named Machiavelli actually wrote down the real rules of the game, and his manuscript was considered so explosive, literally so dangerous to the established order, that the church outright banned it. They actually called it the Devil's Book. Governments all over the world were burning copies of it. They firmly believed these truths were meant only for kings and the ultra-wealthy, and definitely, absolutely not for the average person to get their hands on.
So consider this a quick warning. This explainer, it's really not for anyone who's happy just scrolling through surface-level motivational quotes. If you honestly think a positive attitude alone is going to fix everything, this might not be your thing. But if you've got the courage to hear the unvarnished truth, if you want to know how the real game is played, and you're ready to break out of that matrix of generic advice, then you are exactly who needs to hear this.
Okay, let's dive into this. Rule number 1, be a fox.
Let me tell you a quick story about this guy in Italy named Giovanni de' Medici. He was the richest person in the entire country, but he was essentially an invisible kingmaker. If you passed him on the street, you wouldn't even look twice. He wore super simple clothes, lived in a basic home, had no massive entourage of servants, no frills at all. He looked like a completely ordinary man. Yet, right behind the scenes, the kings of Europe were constantly knocking on his door to borrow money. Every major deal happened because he said so, and almost nobody in the general public even knew who he was.
And this brilliantly illustrates what Machiavelli noticed. He looked at men like Giovanni and pulled out this really profound rule. The lion is majestic, sure, but the lion is highly visible, which means it gets hunted. It's a walking target. The fox, on the other hand, it stays completely unseen. It survives through pure strategy and stealth. Basically, visibility invites destruction, while stealth guarantees survival.
Bring this concept into the modern world, and the contrast is just wild. The urge today is all about Instagram flexing, right? Posting the new car, the shiny watch, the massive house. But look at what true strategic stealth looks like. Warren Buffett is one of the wealthiest men in human history, yet he still lives in the exact same modest house he bought way back in 1958. And that's not him just being stingy. That is a highly calculated, brilliant strategy of remaining the fox.
Because think about what actually happens when you show off. When you post a photo of that new car, you probably imagine people are just impressed. But what's really going down? Envious relatives are quietly taking screenshots. Friends are suddenly watching your pockets, getting ready to hit you up for a loan. And most dangerously, your competitors realize you have capital, and they start tracking your every move. You aren't looking cool. You're literally painting a massive neon target on your own back. So starting today, stop talking about your success and your income. Just stop.
All right, moving on to rule 2, pretend you're poor.
I know. This sounds completely backward in a world that's so obsessed with projecting status. But the illusion of scarcity is unbelievably powerful. Take Francesco. He was a textile merchant in Florence during Machiavelli's time. He launches his business and pulls in a massive profit in his very first year. Now, an ordinary person would have upgraded everything, right? Bought a bigger office, nicer clothes, bragged to the whole town. But Francesco, he did the exact opposite. He kept his old clothes, he stayed in his tiny, rundown shop, and anytime anyone asked how business was going, he'd just shake his head, look sad, and say, "The market is slow, brother. I'm just scraping by." Now, what's really interesting is how the world reacted to this fake poverty. It was brilliant. His competitors completely ignored him because they thought he was way too small to even worry about. His suppliers actually gave him better rates out of pity. They were thinking, oh, the poor guy's struggling, let's cut him a deal. And the government? They paid absolutely zero attention to him and didn't track his growth at all. His perceived weakness ended up giving him this massive, completely unchallenged strategic advantage across the board.
So just trace this out. In year 1, he stays put in that old shop, even though he's flush with cash. By year 3, his competitors are still totally ignoring him, which leaves his market share completely open for him to quietly expand. And by year 5,
Francesco had become the single biggest textile merchant in the entire city of Florence, and he pulled the whole thing off unseen, proving just how dangerously effective hiding in plain sight really is.
Why does this work so flawlessly? Well, it just comes down to basic human psychology. People are naturally wired to help the weak, or at the very least, leave them alone. But the second you appear strong, human nature shifts. People envy the strong. They try to tear them down, and they'll actually rally others against them. You've got to use this psychology to your advantage. Walk into your meetings, sit at those negotiating tables, and claim the budget is super tight. Say the market is tough. Let them underestimate you while you quietly build your empire.
The big takeaway here is honestly pretty stark. The genuinely rich pretend to be poor to protect their wealth so they can maneuver freely. Meanwhile, the middle class often pretend to be rich, totally exhausting their resources just to look successful to people who don't even actually care. True wealth relies heavily on the strategic illusion of scarcity.
Which brings us to Rule 3, and this one's dark: the enemy within.
This is a tough pill to swallow, but it is absolutely crucial. The ultimate threat to your hidden wealth, it's not some random stranger. Your greatest enemy isn't the competitor who's openly challenging you. Often, your greatest enemy is the one who sits right at your table, shares your meals, and laughs with you as a friend. They'll praise you right to your face, but secretly, quietly, they wish for your ruin out of pure envy. And the most terrifying part of all this? Because they're so close to you, you usually don't even see it coming.
To put this historical rule into perspective today, let's look at a startup founder in Mumbai. This guy had been grinding away for years, and his company finally hits this massive 100 crore rupee valuation. He was absolutely thrilled, and hey, rightly so. He felt like he was standing on top of the world.
But then, he made a series of fatal mistakes. He throws this massive party and invites everyone in his circle to celebrate what he called the best day of his life. And at this party, he proudly presents his exact revenue figures. He shares his ambitious future plans, and he openly exposes his entire competitive strategy. In this moment of pride, he carelessly laid out literally all the secrets of his success to the very people standing closest to him, the exact people whose envy could be triggered in an instant.
So I gotta ask, who is actually sitting at your table? When you win, are you playing the lion, roaring for everyone to see and practically inviting the hunters right into your dining room? Or are you playing the fox, guarding your secrets and your wealth with strategic silence? I really want you to think carefully about who you share your wins with moving forward. I hope this deep dive into Machiavelli's blueprint has completely flipped how you view success and survival. Keep learning, stay quiet, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.